What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Peer Pleasure with Dewey Halpus on Equal Vision Records and Sound Talent Media. I am Dewey, your host with the most, bringing you more great content week after week. This week, guys, we have another legend in the punk community. Just incredibly charismatic and influential frontman of one of the greatest punk bands of all time. Yes, I'm talking about Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys, from Lard, from the Jello Biafra and the Guantanamo School of Medicine, the No WTO combo. He's done stuff with the Melvins. Just a prolific person. I've been trying to get him on the show for literally years, and it finally happened just kind of out of the blue. Big thanks to Jason from his band Guantanamo School of Medicine, who I've also had on the show with Matt Freeman. He plays in a band called Charger as well, so you need to check them out. Cross Stitched Eyes is his other band you need to check out. But thanks to him for hooking Jello and I together. I was glad to have Jello agree to do it, and I think he had a good time. We did a long conversation, as I knew it would probably be. We did it in the evening, and we did it over Zoom, and yeah, it was incredible. We talked about Alaska. We talked about all kinds of stuff. And of course, there's always, Jello is quite a talker. So there's a lot of places that kind of go off in the weeds a little bit, but I think we did a really good job of capturing a really great conversation and just kind of, going back and forth on things. I was very pleased with it. I almost lost the conversation. I recorded it on a different recorder than I normally use, a new one that I got. And I had pushed the wrong button for some reason, and it recorded like 10 tracks of nothing. But when it did that, it almost destroyed the memory card. And so I was able to salvage the audio, but it took me about 4 hours after the initial conversation. I was freaking out, thinking I lost it. I will not make that mistake again, but it is here for you to listen to now. So let's get some business out of the way, and we will get into it. So peerpleasurepodcast.com is the website. Peerpleasurepod@gmail.com is the email if you want to get in touch with me. Guest ideas or comments or anything like that, shoot it my way. I've been getting a lot of really great messages. I know I say it all the time, but there's been some really thoughtful messages come through. There's been some amazing gifts come through, actually, which was crazy. Talking with Randy Bly from Lamb of God, mentioning that I never got a Heavy Metal Shop hoodie from the Heavy Metal Shop in Salt Lake City because Lamb of God cleared them out. This was back in 2002, 2003. A listener wrote me in, said, "Hey, what's your size? I'm working right by there. I'll send you one. And don't say no." And I was like, dude, absolutely. I will absolutely do that. So, shout out to Joshua, man. He was awesome to do that and send it my way. I really appreciate that. It fits. It's wonderful. And it takes me back to a simpler time in my life. It's been awesome. There's great stuff coming through. So thank you guys for that. I want you guys to join the Facebook group, the Peer Pleasure Podcast Inner Circle. Just go to Facebook, search that in the search bar, and we will add you in to the Facebook group. And we'd love to have you. It's a good time. We really have a blast in there. So thank you for everyone who's joined so far. And join the premium service. The premium service is going to get you the videos of the episodes right after they happen. The Jello Biafra one's been up for like a month. Right when I'm done, I post these videos to the premium. So if I talk to someone at 3:00 in the afternoon, by 5:00, you can watch it instead of waiting the month or month and a half it takes to come out. We also have the Peer Pleasure Pastcast, which is another podcast I'm doing where I get on with either listeners or other podcasters to discuss their favorite episodes of the show. More of a deep dive into those. So those of you guys that want more content, that's where to get it. And you go to peerpleasure.supportingcast.fm and sign up today and get that premium service. It's awesome. There's going to be all sorts of other stuff on there too, but right now there's just a stockpile of stuff. So go check it out if you can. peerpleasure.supportingcast.fm. All right, guys, I want to jump into this episode. It's a long one, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. It was a pleasure for me to be able to speak to him, and big thanks to him and Jason for setting this up. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys. Well, Jello Biafra, welcome to the Peer Pleasure Podcast, my friend.
Thanks.
And thanks to Jason. And I don't know if Dominic hit you up too. I think I double dipped.
I was Jason who went to me.
Okay. Yeah, Corbett Redford's a friend, mutual friend of ours, and he said to hit up Dominic after I'd already hit up Jason. So hopefully you didn't get hit with multiples, but
right. It might have been bounced to Anne Marie, and she already knew what was up too.
Awesome. Well, how are you, man? Right. How are things going for you in San Francisco?
We recording?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Now you might want to ask the question again.
Well, how are you doing? How are you doing down there in San Francisco? How are things going? Are you just
down in San Francisco? This must mean you're up.
Yes, sir.
Where is your pedestal located?
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
So you're north. Yeah, you're kind of up and away, elevation wise too. Anyway, hanging in there. Finally got my first shot yesterday. No ill effects so far. Our drummer, Jason Willer, who you've interviewed earlier, from everything from Charger to Cross Stitched Eyes to whatever band he was in when you actually did interview him besides mine. He's a busy man, but he had already had COVID and got the shot anyway a little while ago. And his body that had the antibodies detected the vaccine and attacked it like he had COVID all over again.
Oh.
Yeah. So the word to people who've already had COVID, maybe consult and make sure the antibodies might have worn off before you get shot up again. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've also heard that the older you are, the worse the second one's going to be.
Yeah. It seems so crazy to me. Like, it doesn't seem like anyone really knows what's going on. Everyone's got a different story, like it's weird.
Well, Dr. Fauci said that months ago that it was the most frustrating disease he had ever researched. And he was one of the main ones for HIV and AIDS back in the day, after a lot of insurrection in the streets made him take it more seriously. And then he realized, yeah, they're right and whatnot. So, he's got everybody Act Up's respect too now, as far as I can tell. But he said, that it behaves every time we think we have it cornered and we know what's going on. It does something else. I mean, there was just a thing I read. Where was this one? Maybe it was in that Now Good Again zine called The New Republic. And color one to get on the stands, or at least some people's newsstands. And it was about what they called long COVID. And they're starting to realize there's a lot more of that. And nobody knows when it's going to end or if it's going to end. There's all kinds of people who even had mild symptoms when they actually went through it, where the COVID's gone, but they're they can barely get out of bed, or they're in pain head to toe, and it keeps varying with them too. One woman complained in the article the other day, all of a sudden she was excreting yellow crystals all over her body, which apparently pointed to serious kidney failure and stuff. So, and others, of course, report what they call brain fog or worse. And even Jason has said he's had battles with depression and dark mood swings and stuff. And, he's normally a pretty cheerful guy.
Yeah, he sure is. He sure is. That's crazy. I see, we're up here in Portland. I have a special needs son with heart problems and stuff and autism. And so we're considered high risk, and we still can't get one. We've tried 3 different times and they just decline it.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Even I got it.
Yeah.
And the way I got it was calling a number that was on the outgoing voicemail of my primary care physician's answering machine. You try that, go to mycare.ca.gov, and me and everybody else who's tried that site, it's just yet another one of those doctor portal things that they're cursing everybody with, just so they don't have to pay another employee to actually go human being to human being and stuff, where, they throw you in circles and then you never hear back.
Yeah.
Or anything.
Yeah.
And I believe what was happening in San Francisco is the My Turn sites, I noticed they're all at Safeways, supermarkets, and maybe Albertsons owns Safeway now, because at the top of every page was the Albertsons logo. In other words, even the Bidenoids just decided to dole it out to a private contractor instead of totally getting their shit together. Meanwhile, this number, which I am now tempted to look up and read to everybody, because I got to turn my phone back on, because this is the only way me or then some of my other friends who are extremely frustrated and hate portals and digital bureaucracy as much as I do. At least one of them wound up getting the appointment half an hour before I did.
Wow.
And old friend from Colorado. We met in 7th grade. Anyway, so that's how I got it.
Okay.
And the people in line for the time slot were varied in age, from a little bit older than me to a lot of them younger than me too. I'm 62. So I don't know. And then I just got a little message from a recording artist and movie director we have an AT, Annie Kidd, who said she still can't get anything because only people over 80 can get it in Canada, get the vaccine in Canada. I haven't been able to double check that.
Yeah.
And there may just be a shortage in the remote part of British Columbia near Prince George, way up north where she lives now. But this goes right into the accusations from people from other countries that we're sitting on a lot of the vaccine and not sharing it with other countries. So there's that tug of war going on too. And apparently, at least one way they're going to try and solve that is, okay, people are weirding out about AstraZeneca. Fine, we'll ship all of that to other countries. So anyway, let's find out what this, get the old man glasses on and find out this COVID number right now.
That'd be excellent.
COVID. Oh, you can't blow it up or anything. Oh, yeah, we're only talking anyway. Okay, the phone number is 833-422-4255. 833-422-4255. And as soon as you can get away with pushing 0 on the keypad to get to the other options, I got a real person on the line in less than a minute.
Wow.
Yeah. And I got an appointment in less than a week. Apparently, that's not always the case if a bunch of new ones pop up and then they get gobbled up, because there was such a frenzy. The first one I had grabbed, and then for some reason, there are any others a little bit later in the day, whatever. And yeah, there's here, oops, the one we just booked for you is already gone now. You better take one of these other ones. So I did.
Fantastic. That's good. You might have just saved some lives there.
Well, yeah, plus saved my own.
Yeah.
And all I could say, I did one of those little, what would Jello do, little rant casts like I put up on YouTube and stuff to stay in the spoken word game, but keep the music back on the front burner and things.
Yeah.
Can't do both at the same time, like all the way. But so, that's how I do the spoken word, is what would Jello do, is it vary in length from, well, this one was 35 seconds to the one after George Floyd, what happens when the police riot, turned out to be a 6 or 7 part series that totals about an hour and a half long. That was a very emotional series of events that I have very strong feelings about, and a lot of knowledge clear back to when I was a kid. I knew Officer Friendly was not very cool from maybe 4th, 5th, definitely 6th grade, when the Chicago 7 riot conspiracy trial was going on and stuff. And I had a really conservative teacher who was trying to get people interested in current events. And I kept arguing with her and stuff. And but anyway, so, yeah, there I go, digressing again. Where were we?
Well, speaking of spoken word, and I love those, what would Jello do? The last one I saw, you had it taped over Jello with like masking tape on the shirt.
Yeah, I almost put that shirt on because I wore it yesterday to get vaxxed, thinking I needed to look all pretty for the Zoom camera here. Thus, I shaved and everything else and whatnot, instead of just doing it on the phone like I could have, since you're not visual anyway.
Well, we can put it up. It'll be the first one.
Yeah,
we'll make it worth it.
Podcasts are moving in that direction.
Yeah.
Believe you me. So I suggest you put it up both ways. and continue from now on. And if you've got the visual of some of the other folks, check with them and then see if those should go up too, because that seems to be the way things are going now.
I absolutely will.
But anyway, I did that real quick. What would Jello do? The shortest one maybe I've ever done is I'm actually getting vaxxed and all. And, what would Jello do? This right here. Sorry, anti-vaxxers. Sorry, RFK Jr. If there ever was a gamble worth taking, this is it. Go.
Yeah.
And that's my attitude. I mean, I was a little weirded out about it too, just because my paranoia of big pharma, although I've been vaccinated for many other things since I was a child with no problems whatsoever. And I had to remind myself that the one, I think it was for measles or something, it supposedly caused autism in kids that I got freaked out enough about. I was telling Dale from the Melvin's wife and my cousin who just had babies, don't vax them, don't vax them, don't vax them. And luckily they looked it up and it turned out that claim, even though it was published in the Lancet, that highly respected British medical journal, right up there with New England Journal of Medicine and all, they published a retraction and counter research data fairly soon after they ran that article. They were clearly embarrassed that they'd run it at all. And so I had to remind myself that some of this wondering about the vaccine is probably due to that. And I should put that to one side and just gamble and do it.
Absolutely. See, we delayed with my son and he had autism anyway. So it didn't make any difference either way, but we, same thing. Like, it's just wild. It's wild to think about all the just insanity that's going on with that. People are up in arms one way or the other, and it's just tearing everyone apart.
You're sitting there, and how the hell did Jason get vaccinated?
Yeah.
He's only a little bit over 40.
It's his charisma.
That could well be, but, that's almost like discrimination against uncharismatic people, or you're too ugly to get vaccinated, which was, people on the other side use that sometimes when they really mean to say racist or something. I mean, there was a long interview, maybe two, with Anton LaVey of the Church of Satan in one or two of the research books. And one of them began going off on the need to eliminate stupid and asshole type people and stuff. And it finally became obvious, at least to this reader, he was judging that by race.
Yeah.
And then more of that came out in a book. They're going to do a whole book on him. And then more of the racial stuff came out in the open. And so they canned the book. And then there was a huge blow up between Vail and Boyd Rice. And then not long after that, around that was when Boyd came out of the closet as a complete, utter neo-Nazi.
Jesus Christ. It's absolutely insane. We've experienced some of that too. Boyd was a friend of mine too, and a really fun dude to hang out with. He's all over the Incredibly Strange Films book, among others, for good reason. But can't deal with it now. Yeah, man. Well, speaking of spoken word, that's the first time I saw something you had done is in Anchorage, Alaska, University of Alaska, Anchorage, when you came up in, it had to be like 95, 97 ish.
Yeah. It's so weird to me because I've done 2 spoken word shows in Alaska. I went up and did the school in Fairbanks a couple of years later. And it was like like January or February, something. It was less than warm, but my memory, I have no visible, tangible memories of the Anchorage one, except other stuff that wasn't in the auditorium. I mean, I found some weird ass record in a thrift store, some local private thing of a guy singing all about Alaska. And then it wasn't, what's his name? Al Oster, who put out all the albums about the Yukon and stuff. But, and supposedly there's an Alaska one too, just because he saw another market. But, also word got to me that Jack Herer was in town. The guy who wrote the definitive book on why we need to decriminalize cannabis and all. The title is on the tip of my tongue, and I'm not finding it, even though I have not smoked cannabis in decades. But, I was quoting that book a lot in my Grow More Pot spoken word piece. And there was the man. And he knew I had been promoting decriminalizing cannabis and all the things it can actually be used for that people didn't really know about then, except for people like him, to a wider audience and stuff. And it was slowly but surely catching on with a sprinkling of my help too. So we had a great discussion. Honored to meet the man.
Yeah, that would have been a fantastic thing to see. I remember I was of course much younger, but I remember I think you had referred to the Nike swoosh as the swoostica. And I remember for the rest of my days, when I think of that performance, that's what I remember was that one.
You mean like the Amazon throat slash?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find my Jack Hammer instead, because this is the spoken word drawer with all the props in it. There's Tipper Gore's book, but something's happened to his.
Oh, Tipper Gore.
Justice in this world. Damn. Where's my hair book? This is all the wacky propaganda, blatant propaganda zines from Time and Newspeak and the rest that I use to illustrate what is now called fake news and how to spot it when they're not telling you that's what it is. Still a problem to this day.
So you did Anchorage where I saw you, and then a few years later or the next year you did Fairbanks.
Yeah, I was there a little longer too. There was some Aurora Borealis stuff going on the night before when I got there, and the ice sculpture fair was the next day. So we walked through where all these sculptors were going on all through the night making their sculptures, because of course they're going to melt not too long in the future. So they had to make them and make them quick right then and there. And then, there also happened to be some kind of an indigenous conference or even a dance festival at the school too. And I saw some of the dances, and I was so glad I was there and got to experience some of that, including those long pointy drumsticks they use up there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how much they weave that culture into school. We had those through school, every potlatch or whatever. Like we had them every quarter, where you go sampled food and watch the dancing and wrestling. They really drive it, really present it to you at a young age, which is awesome.
And a lot of those people were each from their own town, which in some ways was their own nation, and yet another tiny little town, barely reachable by float, plane, or boat, but definitely not by road.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and
and then they took me to drive a dog sled.
What? Really?
Be the musher and whatnot. Of course, I crashed almost immediately. There's a bigger trick to that than you think there is. And those little dogs they use now are so strong.
Yeah.
And so fast. It was amazing. But then to top it off, some certain clouds cleared, like they almost never do. And the plane went right by Denali, and I knew which window to move my seat to and got to see that whole thing too.
Oh my God. You lucked out, man.
Yeah. No, I've been to Alaska, maybe 4 times now, maybe 5. There was one trip just with my dad. Then there was a family one. I guess just those 2.
Yeah.
And
where did you go on those trips? What city?
Oh man.
Or did you go all over the place? Okay.
My dad had a social work conference in Anchorage and just took me with him because me and my mom and my sister were fighting so much. He just separated us for a while. And, I killed time during the day in the conference, wandering around Anchorage or pouring water out the hotel window onto people down below and whatnot. And then, but kind of boning up on local issues too. There are all these buttons on people. Speak up, Alaska, for progress, for the pipeline. And we all know which pipeline that turned out to be. And thankfully, as far as I know, there hasn't been any massive oil spills like there have been on some of the pipelines down in the lower 48 that, the one that was really bad in Michigan. And it wasn't Keystone, the small one. It was another one in North Dakota that broke over a river in winter, and all this oil went under the ice and stuff. So I was pleasantly surprised that Biden pulled the plug, hopefully for good, on the Keystone XL pipeline.
Yeah.
But there's also the small matter of the Dakota Access Pipeline, the one they were trying to block in Standing Rock, which I had been to in another one of my dad's events and stuff. The whole family went to that one. A colleague's son was having his naming ceremony. And I think it must have been powwow time because there was a rodeo and some other things going on too. And first time I ever felt really kind of out of water and weird and not sure anybody wanted me here because I was the racial minority by a goodly amount and stuff. Yeah. But bravo Standing Rock. Yeah. And maybe that one will find, because they want to put that one either over or under the Missouri River, which is right near where the naming ceremony was. And, it breaks over or it breaks under. There goes not just their fishing grounds and everything, but that stuff washes all the way down the river and maybe even kills the upper part of the Mississippi too. Mm-hmm. Except maybe for those damn carp that are everywhere now that aren't supposed to be there. I don't know. But that one then. We rode the Alaska Railroad train up to what was still called Mount McKinley National Park. Mm-hmm. And had to get up at an ungodly hour before the sun came up. So you'd go on a little school bus ride with some others into the park. And, Denali was covered in clouds, as we were told it probably would be. But, all kinds of black wolves, grizzlies with what would now be called blonde, spiky hair punk root fur and with roots and stuff. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Too. They've got these bleach blonde fur with roots all over the place. It's one of the way you tell them apart from the black bears, I suppose. And I would guess we saw caribou and some of the other fun stuff. And I was also really blown away by the size of the rivers too. Being from Colorado and barely remembering crossing the Mississippi, I had never seen stuff like this before. I mean, Matanuska Valley on the way up, where I've often wondered what the weed is like there, since the vegetables grow to the size of, about the 3-foot giant pumpkins and the beach ball sized tomatoes and everything else, because the sun never goes down. Yeah. But I wonder what the weed would be like there. But anyway. And then there was the either the Tanana or the Nenana just north of Denali, and the railroad, and only the railroad, were right along the edge of that thing. And it was like a really wild little mountain stream with waterfalls, only it was huge with the same kind of terrain. And it was pissing down rain, so there was a lot of water in there too. And then crossed an even bigger river, which I think was the Tanana, and then eventually up to Fairbanks. And I don't think we stayed in Fairbanks very long. There was a car Dad rented to then go over and check out Whitehorse and the Yukon and all. And he, the little fanatic of fuel efficiency and always owning the smallest car he could and stuff, they stuck him with a giant Plymouth Fury.
Oh my God.
I've never been in such a car before. He was way over on the other side of, like the stage if you're playing at a fucking festival or something.
Yeah.
Or so it seems. So he went on the Alcan Highway and nearly died one night because a truck came around a curve on a ledge above a lake on that dirt road, because there's a lot of semis on there.
Yes, there is.
Kicking up rocks, thus the screens on a lot of the headlights and even windshields and stuff. And that thing came around so fast. He clearly never expected a car to be coming on the other side, and missed us by seemingly inches, although it happened so fast. It just went by. What was that? My dad was clearly shaken. And we all have had our near-death experience that we have flashbacks of every once in a while in memory. And that is definitely one of the ones for me.
Yeah.
And then Whitehorse was really cool. And of all the other strange things we'd seen, like going down Cook Inlet south of Anchorage, and all the people living out in the woods or even in Seward or something. Well, your washing machine breaks down, your car breaks down. Put it in the backyard, then put the other ones next to it, and they're all in rows, and that's exactly where they're going to stay, because nobody ain't got no junkyards or the transport to take things there, or quite possibly even the money and stuff. So that was a new one. And But then we get to Whitehorse, and what do I find just sitting there that people paying no attention to, just walking by, as though this isn't weird as hell, was not one, but two Mississippi River-looking old paddle wheel boats up on blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Smaller, but they were those kind of boats and still in pretty good shape. It's like, whoa, and they're just sitting here. Apparently they burned a few years later, unfortunately, even though they'd fenced it by then, but they still never restored them, even to put them in a park or something. But then another great train ride, the White Pass and Yukon Railway, which went from Whitehorse, which also had the upper waters of the Yukon River and stuff, nowhere near the size of the Nenana yet, but still quite an impressive body of water. And it was kind of like a darker swimming pool blue, not like the pastel blue and sea green crayon colored rivers and the others you see up there, depending on the glacial minerals in the water, even the time of the year when the minerals are in there and stuff. I saw a milk one, a pencil lead one, a chocolate syrup one, whatever. It was just one more thing I was not prepared for. Yeah. And then, but then up and over into the Klondike and everything, way up on high passes against cliffs, goes this still narrow gauge 19th century train that's passenger and also freight to get up and over and then descend and descend and descend and descend and descend and descend down to sea level to Skagway in Alaska. Mm-hmm. And at one point, we even went over a water section where there are two clear, large ponds, small lakes, and then flowing in between them was a milky white river. Things like that.
That's insane. So your memory's insane.
Well, how can you forget stuff like this?
I guess I grew up there, so I forget all kinds of things.
Old lady tourists glaring at me at the time because I was 13 or 14 and I had long hair and they were just like, what is this and stuff. I was used to that by then, but that came back with a vengeance when I cut all my long hair off in 77 at UC Santa Cruz, put it in a bag, nailed it to my dorm door and, had the first punk do in Santa Cruz. In one of the first 20 or 30 in the Bay Area, probably, and felt just like when I grew it out in 6th grade. Suddenly I was dangerous again and stuff. Yeah. New punk was the way to go for me. That feeling alone, I thought I'd lost forever with the mellodrone hippies of the mid to late 70s and all that what now became known as new age shit and people wanting gurus telling them what to do and stuff. So, down to Skagway, then on the boat to go down the Inland Passage and we didn't stop off anywhere, just like stayed on board. We stopped at Wrangell and Ketchikan and Petersburg and whatnot, and then eventually down to Prince Rupert, British Columbia, right below the bottom of the Alaska Panhandle. Yeah. In a fairly large town at the mouth of another insanely large river and stuff. And looked like, this is far across the Mississippi, only with all these rapids in it and stuff. But the cool part about Prince Rupert was, Dad wanted to go to a movie. And so we went and saw Little Big Man, the one where Dustin Hoffman plays recounting his life as a white person brought up as a Native American, I believe as a Sioux, actually, if that's who got rid of Custer on screen, no less. But what made that movie was the local audience, white teenagers and indigenous teenagers, all rooting for their own side and throwing popcorn and even popcorn containers at each other during certain parts of the movie. It was good natured, but it was spirited. It was really spirited.
Man.
Never seen a movie that circumstance before, except not even zoot suited within an audience that was otherwise cholos in the Mission District.
Do you remember anything? You said you stopped in Petersburg?
No, the boat docked. Oh. We never went off the boat.
Because this is completely on topic, but off topic. I grew up in Petersburg. I grew up there till I was 12, and then I moved to Wasilla in the mainland.
Rock City.
Dude, Ronald Reagan came to Petersburg on a cruise, and his Secret Service guy had a toothache. I was too young to even know who he was at the time. I see all these cop cars down by the water. Me and my friend Jack ride our bikes down there, ride up into town. There's into town 20 feet away. And this guy in a cowboy hat comes out of a clothing store. And I kind of go between people's legs to get up to see what I thought it was a movie star, which it was. And he comes out and shakes my hand. Hello, young man. And I was like, can you sign this for it? I thought he was famous. Like, I had no idea who he was. I was too young. And I bring it home to my mom and she looks at the signature. She's like, you know who that was? No, that was President of the United States. And I was like, whoa, like it was so cool. And then come to find out later, I don't like this man. Like, I'm not stoked about this at all. And, but yeah, it was in Petersburg. I meet Ronald Reagan in the 80s in Petersburg.
Sell off the signature for a good chunk of change and donate all the money to voting rights groups.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
or one of many other things he went out of his way to wreck. Although went out of his way might be the wrong term, because Reagan was never really president. Daddy Bush was actually president for 12 years. For all practical purposes, Reagan was a movie actor whose genius was he could just glance at any page of movie script or whatever, and his photographic memory could remember the whole thing instantly, and then he could regurgitate back exactly the acting emotions that the page called for. Thus, you have Morning America, Reagan, and you have We Begin Bombing in 5 minutes, and by jingo, we're getting the Panama Canal back and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, it was all an act. He knew it. He enjoyed the ride. He enjoyed being cool. He was never that big a movie star, but after hosting all those GE specials, they convinced him, you really are Ronald Reagan. You're really that guy. And look at what you can do for us with that. Mm-hmm. By that time, his arch right-wing wife had changed his political outlook completely from the days when he was head of the Screen Actors Guild or before, although he gave up people as evil communists while he was part of the Screen Actors Guild too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not very cool, but he was looking out for number one like he always did. But the point I make about him is he knew he wasn't president. He just knew he was an actor there and knew what his role was as his friends looted the store and destroyed everything decent in the world and stuff. And he was totally down. W. Bush was so dumb, he didn't even know he wasn't president. I'm the decider. I'm the presidency. Oh, yes, you are, George. Oh, yes, you are. Should we blow up Iraq, Uncle Dick? Yes, you should. Oh, okay. We watch some baseball now?
He always had that little, like he knew something he wasn't telling you. Oh.
I didn't think we'd wind up in a position where people are looking back on him fondly now as some kind of voice of reason and even honesty in the world. And a lot of that is because, of course, Obama and Biden made a conscious decision not to throw all those criminals in the Bush regime in jail like they should have. Nobody went to jail for crashing the economy in 2008, unlike the savings and loan scandal in 1998, when even Bush's own father put almost 150 people in prison for all the same crimes that only got vastly worse when the 2008 hit. Mm-hmm. And they didn't send Lloyd Blankfein to jail, or Jamie Dimon, who I think is still running whichever one of those he runs and whatnot. And a lot of those people should still be in prison.
Yeah.
And then there's the war criminals. You put those war criminals from the people who actually did the torturing to the people who got off on it so much, like Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, Douglas Feith, and of course, John Bolton and all, you would probably not have little kids thrown in chain link fence cages on our southern border and the American people not even getting riled up enough from the footage of it, because they'd already seen Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo Bay was okay. And in the long run, Obama never got rid of it and stuff. You know, that's what happens when you don't put people away and actually enforce the fucking law. Mm-hmm. Which means when Biden early on said no, he didn't want to go after the Trumpskis or the Trumpsies, ZIS, being all of that regime and all the, the gangsterocracy and corruption on a scale this country had never seen before. And that was just the part that was in everybody's face. Biden said we thought we just needed to turn the page like Obama did in 08 and 09. And we may actually have Trump amok himself to thank for getting so out of control with that ragtag, failed attempt at what I guess they thought was going to be a coup and whatnot. But, you put those guys who run around playing army in the woods up against the Pentagon, they're dead in 5 minutes. And those people knew that. So there's some kind of strategy. The Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and the rest of them, they didn't bring their machine guns. Why not? That question has not been answered as to what they were really trying to do. I mean, you couldn't just have a guy, disgracing Guar and Rob Zombie at the same time with his horns and stuff, pounding with his staff at Pelosi's podium in the House of Representatives and things, and expect somehow that the military or even Trump's Justice Department would go along with giving the country back to Trump on a lifetime basis for that. What were they thinking? Of course, some of them weren't thinking at all, including some people out of our scene who I know, unfortunately. But, it's just you may have Trump to thank for doing something that over the line and that stupid where the Bidenoid can't just turn the page anymore. He can't. I mean, he picked a guy who, unlike Preet Bharara, the old U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, or some of the other ones, he did not pick a pit bull for the Justice Department. He kind of went with the opposite. And apparently Garland he apparently ran the prosecution of Timothy McVeigh, although not a full thing to get rid of, the militia and domestic terrorism movement as it was then. Because a lot of those people, of course, are still around, and their followers are a great deal dumber than they are. So, again, opportunity lost there. And if Garland even says he wants to concentrate on domestic terrorism, what if that goes back to Donald Trump Jr., who's been seen with a 3%ers T-shirt on before, or even Daddy Dirty Donnie himself? Not to mention Bannon and Miller and Roger Stone and the rest of them. Are they going to let them walk? Oh, but putting those people on trial for the crimes we all knew they committed, that might divide the country. I'm trying to unite the country. Oh, my God, dude, look how well that worked when Obama thought he could get Republicans to love him the whole time he was president and got Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz and eventually Donald Trump instead as a result. No, the only hope he has of uniting the country more, and we've never been united and we never should be. I mean, when people are like, oi, oi, kids united, unity, I'm like, no, diversity. Otherwise, not only are things going to get kind of cold and stale and possibly bigoted, but our favorite music would get awful boring, awful fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our whole scene would. But basically, the only way to bring people together now is to show that we are still a country where where we actually enforce the law. I'm actually very pro law and order. And I think it should be enforced on Wall Street scammers. It should be enforced on torturers, war criminals, that butcher doctor who was giving, brown girls hysterectomies against their will, not really telling them what they were doing at our southern border while, all the concentration camp stuff started and everything. That's like Dachau stuff.
Yeah.
You can't just turn the page. That is the kind of butchery only Dr. Mengele and Himmler and Hitler could love. And we were doing it.
Yeah.
And even if the people directly above that dude didn't really know what was going on, although I bet they did, maybe they even beat off while they watched. I have no idea. But you can't let that go.
Yeah.
You can't turn the page. you burn the book and start over again, starting with, if you're so law and order, enforce your own laws. They're saying because of white supremacists, we need all these new domestic terrorism laws. No, just enforce the ones on the books against all the terrorists, and not just a few Muslims, many of which were duped into the crimes they got charged with by undercover FBI people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could bitch and moan and whine about Antifa all you want. You designate that a terrorist organization, you've designated hundreds of your own undercover agents terrorists overnight.
Absolutely, man. It's terrifying.
You can't do that to Antifa because there's no structure. It's not supposed to have a structure like that.
Yeah.
But Oath Keepers, and which I'm finally glad they're getting a light shined on them, because, they've scared me more than Proud Boy types for years, because they are mostly active and ex-cops and military.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. They recruit out of police departments and the armed forces. I even saw a great big billboard I should have taken a picture of when I was out in 29 Palms, California, in the desert east of Joshua Tree.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's a huge Marine base. And there was a great big billboard in downtown 29 Palms. It was a whole billboard recruiting ad for the Oath Keepers.
Wow.
Right there in plain sight.
Yeah. Right out in the open.
This is the patriotic thing to do, stand up and help save our country if they try to destroy the Constitution. But their idea of what the Constitution is and who's allowed to guard it and how they interpret it
mm-hmm.
should not be left to the Oath Keepers. I mean, a lot of these people who are this fanatical about QAnon, you should be able to carry your guns into the House of Representatives or churches or schools or whatever. These are exactly the kind of hotheads who are so dumb they should never be allowed to own a gun for that very reason right there.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to do better background checks. You don't just do mental illness or sympathies for white supremacists or other terrorists. They should probably do an IQ test too.
And social media background check like they do for job interviews now.
Under media literacy too.
Yeah.
I said long before the digital age at spoken word shows that perhaps even in Alaska, when I do the don't hate the media, become the media part, that, as more and more people become the media, you have to work even harder to get your own bullshit detectors, grow them and sharpen them continually. Especially when there's more and more bullshit out there, not just the obvious corporate McNews and everything else, but the now that anybody can blog, anybody can do this or that, or spread wild rumors of everything from me dying again to QAnon stuff. And personally, I think there is a Q. It's either Donald Trump Jr., or both of them, when they're down in the man cave having a good time, making up the biggest lies they can to see if anybody believes them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that means more than ever, when people are getting their news from Farce Book and everything from Daily Beast to The Blaze, which turns out to be Glenn Beck, or the Bulwark, which is supposed to be this new alternative anti-Trump thing, but it's a bunch of far-right people who decided not to join Trump,
mm-hmm.
led by William Kristol, the guy who took credit for hipping John McCain to Sarah Palin, among other things.
Oh.
These are not our friends.
Yeah.
The Lincoln Project, except for one cool area, they are not our friends.
You just going back for a second,
So
you had a death. Someone said you had died, like you had a death hoax.
Oh, there's been several of those.
Okay. I have not seen any of them.
Not in recent years, but One of them got around a Gilman Street show so fast, I think it was a Phantom Limb show, that it might as well have been the dark, dumb side of social media. And then I get up the next day, play my messages back when I mainly had a landline then, and there were distraught messages, even from a singer in one of our bands, and somebody worked at AT. Please tell me you're not dead.
Oh my God. Did you save these messages?
I was almost tempted to call Dave Brocky over that, but I never did, and would have had my heart broken again if I did.
Yeah.
But no. But okay. Hey guys, no, I'm not dead. Don't know how that one got started, but you can't believe everything. And if it's on the internet, that it must be true. No, you've got to look at it as the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Get another source. At the end, we all believe what we want to believe.
Yeah.
You have to be really careful in what you want to believe. And I have to really be careful with that, because I do like to rant and rave and, start telling stories and illuminating things on stage at spoken word shows or on the What Would Jello Do rantcast things on our YouTube channel. I try to keep it accurate and not give out wrong information. Every once in a while, I get called on it, though.
Yeah. Well, you have so many catchphrases for things. And that was my first exposure to what you do, was that spoken word show, and tying it around to the pipeline and oil and stuff like that. In Alaska, we got a permanent fund dividend check every year. And when I was 15 or 16, my parents started giving it to me instead of keeping it. And we took the money and flew to Seattle to record a demo with our band. And went to Singles Going Steady up in Seattle, at this record store there, where I found Book Your Own Fucking Life and the VHS of you guys at the On Broadway. And I'd only seen the logo before, never heard the band. And I was like, I'm going to buy this. This is punk rock. I'm going to buy this. Take it back to my grandma's house in what I ended up watching on a VHS on an old TV that was on a doily with quilts and stuff. That's where I first experienced the Dead Kennedys live on VHS, and then found, I know you said you went to a thrift store to find some records. I wanted to ask you about that too, but that's where I first found Fresh Fruit, was at a pawn shop in Wasilla. So all this kind of ties around when you're, and I know we're off topic a little bit, but when you're shopping for do you prefer secondhand stores or record stores?
Probably record stores overall, but you never know what you're going to find in thrift stores.
Yeah.
And after I did that interview in Incredibly Strange Music Volume 2, much of which was on either really good and or really demented records I'd found in thrift stores, people then began complaining to me that they couldn't find anything good in thrift stores anymore because I tipped everybody. And just me? That's volume 2 of the damn book. Didn't you read the interview with the Cramps in the first one, or the Norton Records folks, or anybody? Plus, I still find stuff in thrift stores. Why? Because I'm still curious.
Yeah.
I still take chances, go by hunches, and sometimes regret picking the thing up as soon as I brought it home. But they don't get played in a timely manner, if at all. But I also blunder into amazing things. If it is like a 45 and I had no idea what it was and turns out to be something really different and really good, maybe sometimes other melodies will pop into my head, even harmonies to that song that aren't that song, and take it off, flip on the recorder, and start playing with the music. And every once in a while, I get a real winner that way.
Yeah.
Some of which you know well.
Do you listen to podcasts at all?
Nope.
Okay. Because Henry
people keep telling me I should have my own, and
you
now
absolutely should.
And not a studio or anything. Maybe that'll happen, but
you don't need it.
I don't know very much about other spoken word artists too. Of course, I've seen Henry later on. And
sure.
That's really good brain food. I mean, he doesn't just stand there and talk about himself anymore. And he hasn't been like that in many, many years.
Well,
you get to learn all these other things about places he visits and his other insights you wouldn't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And some of the people don't fall under the category of spoken word artists because they're activists. They're not artists. I mean, just about the best public speaker I ever saw was the late Judy Berry from Earth First, whose posthumous album with both music and some talks by Judy Berry are on there. I think we still have some of those too. And Judibari. And then Medea Benjamin, who went from Global Exchange to Code Pink, and now she's got another one going too. And I'm sure she got a good whiff of Judy Berry early on, and just how in your face and confrontational you can be if you've got the nerve and to do it and can think quick enough on your feet that you know that just the perfect articulate thing to say if you really have stopped a congressman in his tracks and there's a camera going and stuff. So, Medea is really good, and Noam Chomsky is learn a lot from that dude.
The reason I ask is
Ralph Nader.
Henry has a
Michael Moore.
Yeah, there you go. Henry has a podcast like with Heidi May, and they were telling the story of Skip Groff from Yesterday and Today Records over in DC. And he said a story about how Skip would never let them preview vinyl. Like he would never let you just buy it. But he said there's one day where you were with them and you guys were in a car riding this Yesterday and Today, and that you walked in and said, "I'm Biafra. I'm here for a minute. Bring me everything in your psychedelic section." And that Skip would actually let you preview records, which never happened. And I don't know if that's true.
He had a policy against that. Part of it was because I was pawing through the unknown vintage 45s and just trying to go by hunches and things, including at one time I was there spinning all these other Link Ray records and other projects he played on or produced, because of course he was from around there. And Yesterday and Today had the definitive Link Ray archival stuff for sale. And little did I know how many bad records he was involved with too, as well as so many great ones with so many other people under so many different names.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are a lot of discoveries there. And Skip, he always did that for me, even at least once after hours and stuff. So he just like, God, Jello, I gotta go.
Yeah.
And because my goal was to go through all those 45s and find every single one of them I could afford that I would never, ever see or hear again. But I don't think I ever made it past Link Ray and partway into the letter, maybe A or B. There were that many. It was one of the best record stores ever.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Skip
and
was
like
such a supportive guy, and different people from the Discord bands even worked there over the years.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure Henry ever did. I think Ian even did for a while. I know Brendan Canty did. That's
Brendan did, and Ian both for years. But yeah, Henry never did.
And he put up the money for them to start Discord too.
That was crazy.
I mean, he pressed and distributed the very first run of the Teen Idols EP. Because he liked them, of course, and I think he realized how important that was too.
Yeah,
and I think they were off and running by the time the Minor Threat EP came out, and he'd shown Ian and Jeff the ropes, and the rest is still ongoing history. Yeah, Skip was. I couldn't quite say he was a father to me because I rarely ever saw him, but he was very, very supportive always. And he knew I was that deep and that ravenous to discover things that he was willing to see what he could get me to discover.
Yeah. Yeah. Henry was talking about how he basically is the single person that spawned his collecting and just his ravenous nature for all that stuff. Like, well, Henry, this is a week's pay, but you're not going to find one of these again, like hitting him up with that really, really rare stuff. Yeah. But, are you an audiophile like he is? Like, are you an audiophile where you have like I know he's talked about it before on Joe Rogan, like just this insane system, like the I forget what it's called. But they're expensive. These speakers, like they come and build them at your house and like.
Yeah, I don't have anything like that. Henry would be the first person I know who does. Yeah, basically. Yeah, I don't think even Al Jorgensen ever had that in his place, although he had a really loud sound system. Yeah, but I mean, there's only so much room in my place. There's only so much money. There's only so much time to research it all and figure out exactly which one sounds the way I want it to sound. And so I think it's actually a service to my listeners, since I've produced pretty much everything I've done from Frankenchrist till now, as well as everything else. I've acted as a producer guy. I mean, obviously, Lard is mainly Al and was Paul and whatnot, but although I did weigh in from time to time, but even got listened to every once in a while. But otherwise, I think I'm doing people a service and basically sticking to the system I really like, that wasn't that expensive and is made for, basically for loud, trashy rock music. It's not the smoother AR speakers my dad had for classical, and it's not this, it's not that, and it's not the super fancy one that Tom from Poison Idea, the Pig Champion, had.
Yeah.
Well, you're from Portland. Did you ever see those?
Yeah. No,
there was a subwoofer and everything. That did sound amazing. I can't deny it. I figured with that, I couldn't have one or my neighbors would lose it and whatnot. So, but I'm, and at one point I borrowed some speakers from Radley, who did all that sound for Gilman and for Dick Lucas's bands and stuff. And they were just too big. They were too much. Like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
This is a bedroom. It's a fairly large bedroom, but it's a bedroom.
Yeah.
So I judge the mixes and everything and how things, whether it needs to be redone or tweak this, turn that down, etc. My system is closer to my listeners' systems than some super fancy audiophile thing.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of my older records, the only way you can get them is if they have been around the block a few times, maybe been left all over the floor in some wild parties in the apartment, like so many James Brown and old rhythm and blues records wind up as, and stuff, to the point where some scratches are almost part of the atmosphere. But if it ain't scratched, it ain't diddly.
Yeah.
But super fancy systems, unless you really have ways of EQing them and changing it as you go along, especially the more digital you are, the more scratches they're going to get louder. A friend of mine recorded a bunch of stuff of mine straight into a computer file so we could send it to the people I did that New Orleans Raunch and Soul All-Stars album with in New Orleans, with some of the old songs I wanted to cover that they didn't even know about and stuff. And the pops on those files are bigger than the pops on the actual record.
Wow.
How you fix that, I don't know. The problem is a lot of people, when they're reissuing stuff, including punk stuff and definitely psych stuff and whatnot, they go so overboard to get rid of tape hiss or surface noise if they're doing it off a record, that they wind up doing what George Horn, my longtime mastering engineer from Fantasy, called chemotherapy on the music. And if I get digitally remastered, extra heavy vinyl wasting still more natural resources, and an extra thick cover wasting even more natural resources, and taking up to even more precious shelf space in my record collection, put it on. If somebody really went to town, you're going to get something better than the original. Bob Furbish is a master at that. But more times than not, you get something that has had chemotherapy done, or surgical gauze, or even a COVID mask over the music itself. And it's just sterilized. It doesn't rock the way it should. It's wimpier. It's mellower. Oh, but it is smooth now. Yeah, but I don't care if you can hear every cymbal tingle on Funhouse. It's impact I'm after. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Did you buy that Funhouse box set, by the way?
It came and it went, and it was so expensive. I hesitated and came and went. I hope to hear that someday, but it's already 4 figures on Discogs, which is yet another reason for me never to learn how to buy anything online. As I get so carried away on Discogs, I would not only burn up all my money, but all my time as well.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, take me through the new GSM record. Like it's Tea Party Revenge Porn. Like, were you guys write and record that during all this COVID?
No.
Okay. So it was done beforehand?
Took way longer to finish than it was supposed to for a variety of unfortunate reasons, including my voice blowing for about half a year.
What?
When I was trying to get the vocals done. Yeah.
That's never happened to you before?
Not like this. No,
wow.
No. And then once something happens, you play back something you think is awesome, and it turns out to be totally off key and soulless and everything else. And then suddenly you did so much to your throat with that one that it just doesn't want to come back for a while, possibly psychosomatically. I've gotten a lot of compliments on the vocals on that album.
It's incredible.
But if only you knew what I went through to get there.
That's what I'm saying. What did you go through to get there?
3 or 4 songs and start over again.
Really?
That's never happened before.
Wow. What do you attribute that to?
I don't auto tune and do that shit.
Well, of course not.
I mean, there's 3 or 4 notes that got pitch shifted a little bit in the about 50s doo-wop ballad parody on the Prairie Home Invasion album with Mojo Nixon, that song Nostalgia for an Age That Never Existed. I'm just not Paul Anka. I'm sorry. But and I can think of a better example, but I'm not thinking of it. But anyway, and that's the only time I felt like I had to do that, because I was just misfiring too many times. And we were playing it back and comping it like, I don't want to have to do this again.
Yeah.
Because every time you punch in the middle of a song and correct a few lines, you have to match the tone you had several nights earlier too.
Mm-hmm.
And that partly depends on the weather, temperature, what you ate, how much of a bundle of nerves I am that particular night. It can be done, but I just wish I had the talent to just go through there. Boom, it's done. Mm-hmm. One take, done. But, I usually do, maybe cut 4 versions right in a row and really work on trying to get everything right on the 3rd or the 4th one. Although a lot of the first 2 gets used because it's a little looser and more spontaneous. Sometimes double track, sometimes not, depending on how it's working and whether you can detect the double track, which I don't usually like unless it's supposed to be chorused and stuff. And, and then you got to go through and comp the damn thing. Not just line by line, but sometimes syllable by syllable, if you've really run into a fucking clusterfuck, but can somehow reconstruct it the way you thought you were doing it, but never had the talent to actually do.
Mm-hmm. Do you?
But then again, I'm not a believer in like quickly ripping through something. Oh, let's just do it lo-fi. I hate lo-fi. I like mega-fi. I always liked mega-fi. Black Sabbath production versus some, lower, no high end hard rock thing everybody's forgotten about now. Or I think you see what I got exposed to people like Geza X and Al Jorgensen too early on. I like it big, I like it loud, I like it in your face, and I like it so you can swim in it.
Yeah.
But you can't with lo-fi. You can't turn lo-fi up that loud.
This record does that though. This record hits you. Like, this is one of the most aggressive, aggressive things I've heard this year. Like, I put it on. It's just like, what? Like, this is like I was driving and I'm just had to keep watching the speedometer. The same thing I told Jason with Charger. Like, I had to watch my speed when I'm putting these records on. Like, the dude's a machine. But just hearing all that combined, this record just hits. Like, it hits hard.
As Morris the Cat once said, it pays to be finicky. Some of those might have gone through, I don't know, 8 to a dozen different mixes. And then instead of going into George Horn's because of COVID, he wouldn't let me in the room. He was just going to do it himself. And no, I always did it there for a reason. And so I had to send it all off and email back and forth with Bob Furbish, who wasn't in Denver anymore. He moved to Vermont. And so, instead of sitting right there in the room with him, no, do this instead, do that, no, let's go this direction. I had to keep going back and forth with him all summer.
Man.
And because he did have the ability to make things way further into the red than we did.
Mm-hmm.
But there were times when certain things were too much, or sure, the guitar was really savage, but it didn't sound like Ralph anymore. It didn't sound like us anymore. And so we got to dial that one back.
Man.
And then Kurt Schlegel, our longtime live sound man who recorded this one at Lucky Studios and stuff, his studio place, because Matt Kelly, who I'd worked with since Tumor Circus, moved to Atlanta and, maybe tried a new experiment anyway. So Kurt did this one. And after I thought I'd found really good stuff, he red flagged almost every single song Bob had mastered, saying that there were certain areas that were overdriven, and he heard this flutter going on that in the most cases I didn't hear. I heard it to a lesser degree when I finally went down the studio and listened with him. But finally, then Bob said, well, yeah, I warned you about that some of these masterings might be too insane for a stereo system. And so we went with some other ones. They had to redo it some more and get it all happening without making everything sound all smooth and quiet and perfect in the wrong way or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, the Charger EP is very full. Yeah. And very in your face, but it's also very clean.
Mm-hmm.
And a very different thing than I wanted ours to sound like.
Yeah.
I like dirt and grit too. I know that getting everything super clean in order to be able to blow it up is kind of the key to how Rick Rubin and Al Jorgensen do their stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This
is the point where Last Temptation of Reed was even recorded, not with a drum machine, real drums all the way, but the basic track was not the whole band or the drums and the bass, kick and snare only with a scratch bass in the headphones.
Wow.
And if they got a feel there they liked, then every single tom and cymbal crash got overdubbed separately to keep it all completely clean and isolated. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jeff Ward had to have pillows where his cymbals were so he could get the rest of his moves and fills in properly and not throw himself off and stuff. And that was the way they did it.
Yeah. Well, you got it, man. You got it. It hits. It's just like a dirty garage, like in your face. Like I can't wait to see it live. Hopefully eventually, because
hopefully. Yeah. It was all, understood from the very beginning of this band, Guantanamo School of Medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my name is on top, or we'd not get the bookings we would otherwise and have to claw our way back up a lot further. But it also means that my name's on it. It could either be like nice, nostalgic old man punk and mainly play Dead Kennedys songs, remember when, but that's not what the band was for. And everybody agreed on that. This is for new music.
Yeah.
My new music. I mean, the others are invited to bring things in, but nothing has really been brought in except a couple little things that didn't really catch fire. But someday, one that does, then you're going to get that too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think most of what Jason comes up with that might fit with us, he was using in Cross-Stitched Eyes instead.
Yeah.
More of his thing. And of course, Ralph Spite, the guitar player, comes out of Victim's Family and now also has his solo band without Larry, who from Victim's Family, Larry Boothraid, who's also GSM's bass player now. Anyway, he has Freak Accident. And, his whole life, Ralph has written songs for him to sing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and he's a great songwriter, but he writes to sing, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's got outlets for it is even better.
Absolutely.
But so it's me. I mean, all the stuff that Ray and Klaus and DH claimed I could never write is coming out yet again.
Yeah. See, this is going into this. This is specifically, I did not want to talk about Dead Kennedys because except how I was introduced to you. Right.
Yeah. Because
it's documented. There's 3 books on my bookshelf that document it. Like, I just like to
document parts of it.
Yes. So, we could have talked about Dead Kennedys for 3 hours, but obviously you don't want to do that. And neither do I.
Well, all I can say back to fresh fruit is just a buyer beware thing. People need to know is those guys mostly behind my back have been putting together this 40th anniversary fresh fruit box set that includes an entire remixed album, with me not allowed any input on how it's mixed. And the guy doing it is not a Geza or a Donald Cameron or anybody like that. It's a guy named Chris Lord Alge, who's total major label Glitzland, I guess.
Yes,
Batman movie music and Springsteen remixes. Why him? What is he going to bring to the table that's going to make this that much better?
Yeah.
One mix was posted with Cherry Red Records saying, yeah, Jello hates it, as if that's a very smart way to try and promote this thing. What's up with this scam? And it, honest to God, to my ears, in my opinion, does not sound like a remix at all.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like the original British fresh fruit that was mastered at the wrong speed with the wrong setting. So not only is there no bottom end, but I sound even more like this than I normally do and stuff. It's just, it's a helium version that probably the first 30 to 50,000 copies are that version before we got over there to start our 1980 tour and went into a mastering room and fixed it ourselves with a different engineer and stuff. But, but it really sounds like that version.
Mm-hmm.
And every last little rider move, fader move from the original mix is exactly the same, indicating to me this was just recorded off a record, not stems or a multi-track or audio or any analog or anything, and then put through auto-tune.
What?
Yeah, wait till you hear this thing. I mean, it's up
now I'm
on
intrigued.
the internet. Some people may like it. I don't know. He also added a bunch of bonky bottom end and stuff. So now you go with Klaus or whatever. But for someone of his stature to come back with something that horrible, costing the Dead Kennedys 3 times as much as the cost of the original album. What are they thinking? It took 4 lawyer letters to get their so-called manager to finally cough it up. Yeah, double album is going to be a big booklet, a video documentary, blah, blah, blah. And no matter what they may make it look like at the end of the day, I'm completely cut out of the picture.
Wow.
That's how this stuff is run. I mean, they also did a box set of the 7 inches and took all my lyrics out.
Was that the DK40 thing or whatever? I'm trying to think of the box. I just saw it the other day at Music Millennium. I'm pretty sure.
And it's the size of an LP.
Yeah,
that's the new one.
Okay,
I didn't know it was out yet.
Yeah, I saw it the other day.
Interesting. How much was it?
Oh, almost $80, I think. Like it was.
Well, all I can say, folks, is listen before you buy.
Yeah, that's good information.
People may like it. I don't know. Of course, I haven't even received one or anything, and I may not, for all I know. All because they sued and took everything because I didn't want a Holiday in Cambodia and Levi's commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, AT made an accounting error, which they found, and then paid them everything in one fell swoop, and then they sued.
Yeah.
So it's so dirty. People wonder why I refuse to ever play with them again. Well, would you?
Yeah, absolutely not.
I still feel like I'm married to the mob.
Yeah, that's outrageous.
The lawyer still threatens me. They still pull stuff like this. And the manager has been so arrogant and condescending and bullying when he's tried to come on to me directly that he's now forbidden to email or call me or anything and only has to go through my attorney guy.
Mm-hmm.
And until they got bent out of shape and the perfect storm hit, even obsessive bean counters like East Bay Ray, they were getting all their share of the money, and none of it went to managers, lawyers, or anything, because we ran our own ship. And now it's just getting drained.
Yeah. God, just a damn.
So it's just in, you know, it's so dumb. I mean, they bitch and moan that I won't do $1 million reunion shows with them.
Mm-hmm.
But the highest I've gotten was 4 million. You know how long it took me to say no?
2 seconds.
Yep. I mean, it's not lost on me. It wasn't lost on me when I saw the Stooges at the Warfield, you know, just how good they were, and, you know, how much I enjoyed that, and how much that music has meant to me over the years and whatnot. I mean, no Iggy, no Stooges, rather, no punk. That's just the way it is. We all know that.
Yeah.
At least over here. But, you know, it was not lost on me that, you know, Dead Kennedys in the same venue, the real band playing their asses off, would mean a hell of a lot to people. But I thought, you know, it's never going to happen. And I accept that.
Yeah.
Not only just because of how dirty it is. And if I did go back, I would basically have their lawyers, that manager, and Ray Incorporated as my boss.
Yeah.
That's not what the real Dead Kennedys was.
Exactly. It wouldn't be right. It wouldn't have the fire behind it.
Were mine. Right down to which mix we used, what the order of the albums were, what the art was, and this, that, and the other. So, yeah, you know, I'm not going to just be some poodle like that.
Yeah.
You know, that ain't me. Plus, I still keep getting so many complaints and emails about how poorly they play and how little they care if they suck. Or at least that's what they're projecting from the stage, and the opinion of these people who write to complain and stuff, as if I could do anything about that. I mean, the last thing I want any part of is getting people's hopes up that high, and people show up so stoked, and we go on stage and suck.
Yeah.
Blow the songs and just laugh and then start it again, or whatever, and just kind of, okay, fine. Or they're playing some of the stuff I've heard, they're playing rip-roaringly fast, but they're not playing with each other, which is kind of what happens when people don't rehearse.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just, I don't like part of that.
That's intense, Jello. $4 million. Like, I don't think anyone in that situation, I mean, what knows what it's like to have that put to them, like as a possibility, and then be able to say no to that. That takes some. That
it would have
takes
been
some
so
fortitude,
miserable,
man.
Though.
Yeah, I know, but like, think of
It's
just
not
the
just
general.
being able to look in the mirror at myself afterwards.
Yeah,
it's just the sheer misery of being around those guys and the kind of people they are now. And oh yes, come on out! It's the 40th anniversary of Fresh Fruit, and now we wrecked it. So I'm not there to promote that.
Yeah. Well, I applaud you for not doing that, because it's not right.
The true spirit of Dead Kennedys to me is in the words, in the way we did the band, you know, not playing for Bill Graham, not except once opening for the Clash. And we learned our lesson, and then no major labels and none of that stuff. And we did pretty damn good, in part because we stuck to our guns.
Yeah.
If they get bitter later, we were never on a major label, then fine, go get another singer. And that they did now. And they're still not on a major label.
Yeah.
Due in no small part, perhaps, because even though they run around claiming I barely wrote any of the music and it was all committee written songs, including the lyrics and this, that, and the other, where are their new songs?
Exactly. That's where the proof's in the pudding, man. The
fake Dead Kennedys are approaching doing their little scam twice as long as the real Dead Kennedys were together. Actually, they've surpassed that now.
Yeah.
You'd think if they had the chops and everything, come up with all those other cool songs. And granted, a lot of the best ones did indeed have more than one author. The only real group written song in our history was Holiday in Cambodia. And that's the best song we ever did, in my opinion. All the more reason I didn't want it in a Levi's commercial.
Yeah.
But you'd think they could come up with something.
Yeah.
Just to shut me up, if for no other reason.
Yeah.
It's not as though they don't have the talent. It's just that they don't want to do the work.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, my favorite Dead Kennedys song is Moon Over Marin. I love that song. Since we first were learning how to play guitar, like learning to play that song, like that's my song.
And that was an atypical Ray riff we had from the beginning, but nobody could figure out what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, I come back in from taking a leak at where we were rehearsing at Iguana Studios, and they're jamming off this thing, and we didn't jam nearly enough. Ray said, "Oh, I can't jam." Oh, come on! But and that intro with a bass string bend feeding back from the amp and all that, they were kind of just jamming on that. I thought, hey, wait a minute, put that with Ray's Eno riff we can never figure out what to do with. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So then I put the bridge in and got some lyrics going, and Klaus came up with the title, and the rest is history.
There we go. Thank you for doing that, by the way, because I love it. That's such a fantastic song. And I love it.
No, I don't come up with those very often. Of course, Ray came up with the main thing to that one. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's really another heir to that till Crapture on the White People and the Damage Done album, which took a lot of back and forth with the other guys just to get them in the feel of what I was trying to do with that too.
Yeah. That record right there. A
couple more like that I wanted to put on Tea Party Revenge Porn, but we ran out of time before the studio, and I wanted to kind of sail back off in another direction after all this hard-hitting doom and stuff.
Yeah.
And but sort of a sequel to I Won't Give Up in a way, as far as some kind of empowerment thing at the end. And then those never quite got done. And then little did I realize till later, true to form, that starting with Frankenchrist, a lot of my songs came out 2 or 3 times longer than they sounded like they were. Thus, a whole bunch of Frankenchrist had to be split off and wound up on Bedtime for Democracy. And then, and the same here, there wouldn't have been room.
Yeah. And
so I decided, driving around with different song sequences, what's really cooking. I don't want anything where the air starts to go out of the tires. I want anything to sag. And then finally, a shorter one with only 8 songs on it and No More Selfies and Ghost of Vince Lombardi wasn't even in there. And that was such an adrenaline ride. I thought, okay, lean and mean. That's what the fucking vinyl's going to be. Lean and fucking mean. Mm-hmm. And we'll put Selfies and Lombardi in the middle for the CD and the download version. And a 7-inch is going to come out hopefully fairly soon. I finally got an acceptable test pressing today on that one.
Wow.
Turnover time at pressing plants is monstrously slow now.
Yeah.
And getting worse, even though more and more people are starting pressing plants, it's not as though they're hurting for business.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the people starting them don't really know what they're doing, and some do.
Yeah.
So it's just, I've never had to be this hands-on general managing the general manager to get a goddamn record out.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about the artwork on Tea Party. Is that Winston?
Of course.
Dude, tell me about that artwork, because that is ferocious. I love that artwork on that.
I had wanted to use that image for decades. It's a front fanged snake. It might be a rattler. It might be a water moccasin. Now you got the head wide open and he put a human brain in its mouth.
Yeah.
And I think he did it during the Reagan era, because it was yet another one that kind of symbolized what was happening to our country and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I put it in the back of my head, I really want to use this sometime. And Winston forgot about it and forgot about the whole piece to the point where he never put it in his books. Thus, it was still available and nobody took it.
Yes.
And he couldn't even find the original anymore. So luckily, a super sharp Xerox he'd made for me way back in the day became the master. And a lot of his stuff actually does look better in a really pristine Xerox than the original does, because everything's kind of melded together.
Mm-hmm.
And that one is no exception. And so that part was saved, thankfully. And I always wanted to have the other brain, which is actually a damaged brain that's partly, decomposed, that they took out of somebody's head. That's on the back cover, kind of calm with all those volcanoes in the background and stuff. I'd always wanted those two together. There's a third piece that's better known that he thought that was the one I wanted. But that's a different one you will hopefully see on the next GSM.
Excellent.
Whatever that may eventually be.
Yeah.
If there's a way to put the three that haven't really come out, except Blunder Blubber is a digital single now, released to celebrate Rush Limbaugh's death.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple more too. And then one that barely even made it into the rehearsal stage. It could be the anchor if it was like a 4-song EP. If we do that, I don't know what we're going to do. But, it's another one about how QAnons and Crystal Knox and people participating in these things wouldn't dream of it before. Neighbor on neighbor in Sarajevo and stuff. What causes that? If you can really totally say, and the song is called Kiss the Magic Weapon. So hopefully it'll come out someday, somehow.
Man. And
anyway,
that vinyl,
it's a slow pounder. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I was watching an episode of Crate Diggers that you did, and you had that quote to never waste an album title on something that isn't going to annoy people or stick in their head.
Well, also never waste album cover art on your own ugly mugs. Crying out loud. Something creative, something it'll be like when I was a teenager looking for cool records and stuff, because I didn't want to have to listen to the Eagles and Elton John and all the other stuff on FM radio just to get to one Uriah Heep song, let alone Alice Cooper, who got on briefly with School's Out, although it was a commercial radio hit, and you get the picture.
Yeah.
Right. And I realized there must be more out there. And the first record I ever bought on a hunch was Tyranny and Mutation by the Blue Oyster Cult, which became my favorite record within about a week, and then several of my friends too. And then there was no stopping me. When a really square music reviewer in the Denver Post, who'd already written an entire one of his capsule review columns on how much he hated Alice Cooper, and he could probably write pretty ballads. Like, who is this guy? So then it turned out he had encyclopedic knowledge of bands he didn't like. And so when he said Black Sabbath is almost as bad as the MC5, guess what I tracked down as quick as I could. And I was not disappointed, even though the first one I brought home was a 50-cent copy of Back in the USA. Okay, this is pretty good. This is good rock and roll. Oh my God, here's another one for 25 cents. Kick out the jams. And then my life got turned upside down. And I had yet to hear Iggy and the Stooges.
Yeah.
Although I was very curious as to what raw power was. I mean, even the Rolling Stone interview, and I hardly ever even saw Rolling Stones, the Ig. No one does it better. No one does it worse. In fact, no one does it at all. And then didn't define what it was at all. Like, this isn't helping. I think this is probably really good, but I'm not sure.
Oh, my God.
And so basically what I'm getting to is I always like the art, especially the front cover, to be something that's going to jump out at somebody like that kid I was the minute they walk in the store.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they're looking at a CD that somebody's hopefully racked where you see it.
Yeah.
And you look on the wall and what the hell is this? I mean, there's been so many people like you said over the years. Yeah, I had no idea who you were. And I saw the cover to In God We Trust Incorporated. Then I saw the name of the band. Then I saw the name of the song. And oh my God, this looks really fucking crazy. I'm buying this record.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very honored to have been be the gateway drug all this time for not just people in the 80s, but generations of people.
Yeah.
I'm really, really blown away and honored deep down in my heart that anybody even cares about me at this point. And my art, that I still matter to people at this age and they're still interested. I mean, that's a great privilege that you can't just count on. I don't like to use the word blessing because I'm not religious, but I think you know what I'm saying. If it weren't for all you good people out there, then where would I be? What would I be? would I even still exist?
Yeah.
Or for that matter, would you have ever been born, and any of us still exist, if Richard Nixon was president during the Cuban Missile Crisis?
That's a good point.
Those kinds of things haunt me too.
Yeah.
I mean, how much better a country would we have been if Bobby Kennedy lived and Nixon was never president?
Yeah.
Where would we be now? I mean, stuff like this just tears me to pieces. But anyway, that's my point on the art. I like it to jump out.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, sometimes I was doing this a lot with Shepard Fairey, who was finalizing the Audacity of Hype cover. And he said he had me fly down there and do it with him, because he was like moving stuff around, even changing parts of my face ever so subtly from the photograph from the back of the DVD of The Widower, that movie I was in, where I play both Satan and an evil funeral director and whatnot. And Satan is on the back. So that's the picture that was used. And it was supposed to be a parody, of course, of Obama's Hope poster. And I called Shepard ahead of time because he's a friend of mine. He was really cool with me about the No WTO combo cover, using his art and everything. And I think he just gave it to me, actually.
Wow.
And then instead of charging a Shepard size fee like he would a commercial client or a Led Zeppelin box set or whatever, but because we just hit it off. And of course, yet another one who really, really dug Dead Kennedy's way back when he was a young skater. And I think it was either North or South Carolina and stuff. And that's still a part of him. And so and he was a big Winston fan too. I think they've met now. I'm not sure. But anyway, so I was like, Shepard, I got to tell you, I'm about to go after your Hope poster for the new album called The Audacity of Hype. Well, who's doing the art? That's a cool idea. I don't know yet. I want to do it.
Yes.
So then he got it. But that also meant, he would be changing certain things. And then I'd step to the back of the room, and he had a pretty big workroom. He's got a whole hive going in LA with different people doing different stuff. Thus, one of his underlings did the B side of the insert poster, the Obama O, the Biafra B, and all that. I mean, another guy drew that with, a lot of ideas of mine put in, just like Winston with Bedtime for Democracy when he drew it, claiming we didn't. Winston claims he doesn't know how to draw, but
bullshit.
And I think he just doesn't like to.
Yeah.
He went crazy one time. He goes in spurts and stuff. There'll be the covers for High Priest of Harmful Matter, Last Scream of the Missing Neighbors with DOA, Skies Falling on My Mommy with No Means No, and maybe one or two others were all just a spree he went on. I hadn't seen him in a few weeks, and then he had all this stuff. Yeah. And it was so good. I just kept remembering those when I wanted another one and which one to use. But anyway, but that back at Shepard's, I would step to the back of the room and look at every single option he was doing with me, trying to figure out what it would look like if I caught it out of the corner of my eye when I walked into a record store.
That's perfect.
And then we nailed it down.
Yeah. That's one with you as the devil, like oh God, I love it. That's such a good cover. And Shepard and Winston both, I need to reach out to both of them to get on this show, because Winston's fan. I love Shepard Fairey, but Winston's art is just insane.
Good luck with Winston.
I'm going to try
back up to that ranch land.
I'm going to try.
He's had, on a larger, like hippie radical ranch and stuff. He was living only up there for many years. The Plastic Surgery Disasters booklet was assembled we had to do that by candlelight.
Oh my God.
He's off the fucking grid.
Really?
And still is.
Yeah.
So he and his wife, when COVID hit, they just moved back up there.
Yeah.
He's still got his place in North Beach and his little work studio, but he hardly ever goes there. And if he's up there, if he's up at the ranch, you will only hear from him, if at all, if he goes up to some high ridge or hill somewhere within walking distance where he has reception.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's down in town in Ukiah to pick up supplies and goes to our friend Jay Ed's house and he's got Wi-Fi for a little bit. And then otherwise, he's back being off the grid Winston.
Yeah. It'll be like when I emailed Ray Pettibone randomly off Facebook, and a year and a half later to the day was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. Like, wait, what? I was watching TV with my wife and I was scrolling through my phone and I was like, holy shit. She's like, what? I was like, Ray Pettibone just sent me a message on here. And she's like, who? And I was like, ah, shit. Let me go get this book over here. Like, oh my God. But, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, I only met him briefly at a Target video party in maybe 81 or 2 when he came up with Black Flag.
Yeah. Interesting character, man. Interesting character. Artists are, man. And this has been really good, Jello. I appreciate it, man. I really do. It's been an honor. And like you said earlier, I mean, being the gateway, I mean, I appreciate it, man. You turned me on to so much cool stuff.
Something's just happened to me. They're trying to, I guess it doesn't matter. We're not on visual Zoom. Suddenly think they blocked you because they want to sell me another Adobe Flash player.
Oh, can you still hear me?
Oh yeah, we're fine.
Okay, cool. I can still see you fine too. So,
yeah.
But man, I really appreciate, I mean, you've turned me on to so many great things just from what you did, and what you still are doing. You know what I mean? Like,
East Bay Ray years ago said that he regretted Dead Kennedy's lyrics. I think that was a year before he claimed they were all written by committee. But he said he regretted them because he felt I went far over people's heads.
What?
And with some people, maybe so. I don't know. But I also was very conscious of deliberately going over people's heads, even with inside jokes occasionally that only 2 or 3 of my friends I've known since grade school would possibly figure out, just having fun. And, but you know, I like going over people's heads because some people get inspired to whip out that phone, start Googling or whatever, and learn something.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm amazed how many people, even really young people who just got into Dead Kennedys or me, took the time to look up where the Biafra part of my name came from.
Yeah. From Nigeria, right?
Yeah, it was the southwest corner of Nigeria.
For like 3 years or something?
Where the
like
Igbo people try to secede and form their own country, the Republic of Biafra, because of how oppressed and exploited they felt they were by, you know, it was a tribal thing too, the Yoruba versus the Igbo and whatnot. But the Yoruba were closer to the big center of power, and maybe they knew oil was around the corner, whatever. So British Army with some backdoor assistance from the American government choked off the Republic of Biafra food supply and starved them to death en masse.
Jesus Christ.
Massive act of genocide. And part of what made it so horrifying, you don't see stuff like that on the news now, on anybody's news, not even Democracy Now!, because they'd never let Amy Goodman get that close. But back then, all 3 networks, the big 3 TV networks, they were independently owned. They hadn't been swallowed by General Electric or Disney or Westinghouse or a holding company called Cap Cities Industries that had Reagan's CIA director on their board or anything like that. So they all had kick-ass news departments, well-funded, bureaus all over the world. And they didn't care if the news made money. They just wanted to outscoop and outperform the other networks' news departments. Thus, you got muckraking documentaries, and instead of having to be embedded only where they want to steer you if you're covering a war, all kinds of bloody, wounded soldiers and mangled Vietnamese civilians and whatnot all got on the news every night, as did the hoses and the dogs on John Lewis and other peaceful marchers in places like Selma, Alabama, and the Biafra War. So all these starving children lying all over the ground, about to die, their eyes bugged out, the rib cage, the bloated bellies and everything. You saw that, and in the pages of stuff like Life magazine, other things, you saw it again and again and again. So that war, Biafra, was the worldwide instantly recognizable symbol of starvation and genocide. Thus, I thought it would be an interesting thing to do, to collide the two images.
Yeah.
That make people collide those two images in their mind and see if it makes them think.
Yeah.
That's where it came from.
See, that's
and the other part of that, the other part of the equation that I didn't really appreciate till later, because I fought with my parents so much growing up and stuff, but not in the way some people did. I was never assaulted or abused or beat up or anything like that. We just really, really had some fierce quarrels over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But I was as passionate about things as they were, so it was their fault. But anyway, but they also, the news is on. We're starting to eat dinner. There's this horrible stuff on the news. They didn't change the channel so as not to upset the children. We all watched it. Night after night, I saw Oswald get shot. Live on TV. I saw Berlin Wall go up, Vietnam, civil rights, the birth of the environmental movement, everything, and experienced it with the music at the same time, even as a kid. And I'm so grateful I got all that stuff, because even a lot of people I grew up with have no tangible personal memories of any of this stuff at all. Mm-hmm. Not even Watergate. When we were 16, best reality show in the history of TV was Senator Sam and those hearings, and Nixon was going down, and the justice system actually kind of worked that time till Gerald Ford pardoned him. But the point being, the parents not shielding reality from their kids created smarter, more conscientious kids.
Yeah.
You see those dogs and the hoses, and then my mother saying, I just don't understand why anybody would hate anybody else because of the color of their skin. Not pleadingly, she was just pissed.
Yeah.
And that seemed logical to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just total hardline anti-racist from probably age 6 onward, when I realized what was going on. I didn't realize what racism was.
Yeah.
Got on a train when I was even younger to go visit my grandparents, and I complimented the porter on his tan. It was the darkest tan I'd ever seen. I don't remember this incident, but my mother does, and she brought it back out again. One of the last times I saw her, I don't remember this at all, or even being told about this. But it wouldn't surprise me. Boulder, Colorado is still kind of void of a lot of diversity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anywho, but there was things like my convictions were very deep and very knowledgeable, very young.
Yeah.
When I get into something, when I get passionate about it, I just want more. I want to dig deeper. It happened when I first heard rock and roll as a 7-year-old in second grade in 1965, when Beatlemania was still happening and so-called garage bands were actually out there playing and on commercial radio, even local bands and stuff. And I was all in.
Yeah.
And the same with a political end. So, and I think a lot of people were. I mean, even in 4th grade, with primary elections and stuff coming up, there were Nixon's the One buttons. There was Rocky buttons for Nelson Rockefeller, and probably Kennedy ones. Humphrey jumped in right at the last minute to rescue the Democratic establishment from Eugene McCarthy, who was the anti-Vietnam War candidate left now that Bobby Kennedy had been murdered. And they weren't going to allow that. So they put Humphrey in. And the wrestling and everything with all these open delegates and stuff. And I think it took more than one vote to hand it to him. I'm not sure. That was back when those conventions were interesting and they were suspenseful, and you didn't always know who was going to get nominated.
Yeah.
An even bigger tug of war in 1972 when McGovern was running ahead, and Humphrey jumped in again at the last minute to try and yank it away from him, and almost did.
Yeah.
So, just say, I was all in. I mean, but even other people that back then, there were all the buttons and everybody knew what was going on. And everybody by 4th grade knew who was for and against the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, such a fascinating time to.
But I also learned early for that reason that not everybody agreed with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that a lot of people, even in Boulder, were really conservative. So then when they hold the mock election in 5th grade, I can't remember if it was Nixon or Humphrey who won. It was really close. And then the whispers began about who was the one person in the 2 combined classes who voted for George Wallace. Somebody did.
Did you like that? Did you like having people against you that way, like railing against things? Even back then?
No, I thought they were wrong.
Perfect.
And history has proven me right.
Yes,
too.
Yes, sir. That's fantastic. Man, I
have plenty of friends, good friends who, I have a lot of disagreements with on world affairs. And I don't know what's going to happen with some of them now because of the divisions of Trump, even ones who weren't all in on going to the Capitol or anything. There's still some. I'm even worried has gone QAnon. I'm not sure. But then what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
I had so many, even arguments with my best friends growing up at the time, back in 4th, 5th grade. He was totally into Hitler. Mainly just to be anti everybody else and stuff. But he was also just about the smartest kid in the school, too. So eventually, by middle school, his hair grew out, too, and he went completely the other way. But that made for some very interesting debates.
I bet. Absolutely.
Yeah. I sharpened myself on that. So,
yeah.
Even Buzz from the Melvins has some very different views on some things than I do. Lumping him in with Gavin McInnes is unfair, but they're both libertarians.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe 2 different strains. I don't know. But I actually, one thing I got at from Tim Johann on a Maximum Rock and Roll, why he was a socialist and not an anarchist, was, look, you need some kind of government and authority to take the wealth from people who have too much and get it to the people who don't have enough.
Yeah.
And that's, that was his idea of socialism. And I'm on that page.
Yeah.
The whole idea with libertarian things of no taxes, market can do everything. Let's not fund schools. Let's not fund hospitals. Let's not fund vaccines. Let the market take care of everything. And by the way, there should be no laws restricting guns. I'm not down with that.
Yeah.
I know you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube in this country with guns, unfortunately. But even close to 80% of Republicans in a survey I just show support stricter gun laws, especially background checks.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would have kept the guy who just shot up my hometown from ever getting a gun.
Yeah.
And the one in Atlanta from ever getting the gun. And Dylan Roof, who blew the people away in the basement of the Black Church in South Carolina. And Kyle Rittenhouse. Which those 2 are so young, you got to ask, where were the parents? You never hear a thing about the parents until they took Rittenhouse's bail away because he was seen drinking underage at a bar with known white supremacists, including flashing their hand signals and stuff. And he might have even gone back across state lines to do it. I don't remember. But guess who he went to the bar with? His mother.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So where were the parents? Well, who knows? Maybe that's where Dylan's parents were too.
Yeah. God. Oh, this is just a strange time, a really strange time. I saw that in Boulder and it was just like, so I knew we were talking today and I was like, man, that's Jello country right there.
Is it the grocery store my mom goes to? Yes.
King
and
Super.
I've been there many times. Yes. Well, there's 3 King Supers or at least 2.
There's 2 at least. Last time I was in Boulder, I saw 2.
The one that's open later is down more below where the university is and stuff. So that's the one I will frequent, especially when they used to be 24 hours, which they're not now, which infuriates me. thinking I'm going to be able to get my food for the night after a show in Denver, and then they're fucking closed.
Yeah.
So, what a horrible thing to have happen.
Yeah.
Nothing but greasy, drunk college student food on the hill. Instead. Is this all there is? Oh God, most of them are closed too. No.
Oh my God. Well, I have to ask you the one, and forgive me if you've talked about this in ad nauseum, but a buddy of mine that I've known since discovering dead Kennedys back in Alaska, I had mentioned that I was talking to you, and he's like, you have to ask him about the KFC truck story that happened in Portland on Burnside. With, I'm guessing it was the Night of Living Rednecks, the whole thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the story.
Yeah.
I'm telling the story off the top of my head live because it was not that far away from the venue we were in the second time we played in Portland. Everybody knew where it was, and somebody's equipment had broken down. It might have even been a bass guitar string or somebody's amp or something, or it was going to be a while before we got everybody powered up again. So to kill time, I started telling the story. Maybe Klaus is playing behind me as well as Bruce, who, AKA Ted, who was a jazz drummer too, which would have meant that Ray was the thing whose power had gone out. But anyway, killed time, told the whole story far better than I remember it now. So you want all the gruesome details, get it that way.
Got it. All right, my friend. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Jello. We've taken up 2 hours of your night here, and I appreciate the time and
it's half almost.
It's been a pleasure, but hopefully you had a good time. We got to talk Alaska, man. That's fantastic. Yeah. But I appreciate it.
Welcome to the wonderful world of amateur podcast visual universe.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, my friend. I appreciate the time, and I appreciate, all you've done for music and for, inspiring people such as myself and putting out great music still. And I'll throw like all these links in the show notes and stuff when it comes out and doing a whole intro stuff.
To a growing popular myth, Tea Party Revenge Porn, the album, is not a Trump album. White People and the Damage Done was an anti-austerity concept album. The only other one besides Frankenchrist, which was an accidental concept album, till I saw that Giger painting and began connecting some dots and rewriting a word here and there because I hadn't recorded the vocals yet.
Yeah.
To tie it together. But Satan's Comb Over, the song that opens the album, and Tea Party Revenge Porn, and Last Big Gulp about climate collapse, and some of the others were all written and in our set before Trump even stole the 2016 election.
Wow.
The real vote fraud, as best detailed in Greg Palast's documentary movie, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, on the Interstate Crosscheck Program, 29 states opting in, their entire voter database given to a right-wing extremist who we haven't heard the last of in Kansas named Chris Kobach, put it all together, kicked out everybody whose name looked like it might match. Therefore, they must have voted twice. Concentrating on names like Washington, because most Washingtons are African-American. Of course, your name is Jose Martinez. All 5,000 of you suddenly didn't vote and don't know it. Where were all the black people in North Carolina for Hillary? Oh, they were probably right there, and their votes got tossed.
Yeah.
I'm just glad they're being so in your face about stealing elections now that we may actually be able to get some progress and some laws in stopping some of this stuff. They got away with a lot more before Trump went public with it.
Yeah.
If he hadn't gone public with it, he would have succeeded again easily. Because you'll notice, how many other people got in through skewed votes who people thought were going to lose. Susan Collins, and some people think McConnell got in on stolen vote in Kentucky, although not everybody does. And the Democrats had a lame, middle-of-the-road corporate Democrat running anyway. And went overtime to knock off the African-American who came out of nowhere and almost knocked Amy McGrath off in the primary because of the Breonna Taylor shooting. Suddenly that guy was everywhere and he made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But basically, the Satan's comb over is not just Trump, it's the effect. And that's worldwide. It's a disease and an ugly cloud and tornadoes and Scirocco's and who knows what else all over the world. Mm-hmm. And it didn't begin with him. Look at the National Front in France or Brexit or the closest thing to the violent stuff we're getting here, the Golden Dawn in Greece. 3 of their top people just got convicted of murder, by the way.
Jesus Christ.
And so they may be on the way down, even though, again, a lot of military and police involved in that one, some of whom were the young military hotheads when the military junta ran Greece and stuff. So scary fucking place, bikers involved and, going down to immigrant parts of town and running people out of their own businesses under threat of death. And Golden Dawn are one of the worst.
Yeah.
And then even worse than them, as part of Satan's comb over, of course, is the Philippines, where you can be your own death squad and shoot your neighbor claiming they're a drug dealer, and it's all fine with the authorities and President Duterte. And then Bolsonaro in Brazil, of course, is not only spreading COVID more than anybody else in the world, he's burning up the planet at the same time. Not even clear cutting the Amazon, but burning it.
Yeah.
So there are Modi in India, another one even worse. But it's all part of Satan's comb over. Why all over the world? Why now? Who decided to collude and fund all this and steer their media outlets to making pop stars out of these right-wing people, even if they say Nigel Farage is bad, Trump is crazy, look what he did today, but that's all you're going to see on the news tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, maybe they just decided Occupy and the growing green movements and environmental movements and too many people realizing climate collapse might kill their kids down the road or whatever. We just need to crush these people.
Yeah.
No more choice, no more even illusion of choice. We can't just try to erase the memories of the 60s. We must destroy the 60s itself once and for all, which people like Steve Bannon have been openly obsessed with. It's all caused by the 60s. We just got to, these people are so horrible, they should be punished and stuff.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's Satan's comb over. And Tea Party revenge porn, again, all I had to do was go back through my files and my memory on every dumb claim any of those people made, conspiracy theory or otherwise, up to that point. And I already had way more than enough. And just repeat them, jazz them up a little bit, and suddenly you've got a rather cruel satire of the Tea Party people.
Yeah. Damn.
And I didn't even get in things like that now Congressman Ken Buck, who was the Tea Party Republican nominee for the Senate in Colorado in 2010 when they first came out of the woodwork, and he knocked off the square Republican candidate and stuff. Thus, a really weak Democrat won instead, named Michael Bennett, but who still is weak. I worry Lauren Boebert may knock him off when he's up again in maybe 2024, I don't know, or the next, or whatever, but because he's just such a nothing. But anyway, this guy, Ken Buck, even claimed that the free bicycle program in Denver was a United Nations plot to take over Denver.
What?
Visualize people from all these other countries or even the Security Council. Oh my God, war in Syria, this, that, and the other. Now, what do we do to take over Denver? Visualizing these conspiracy theories coming to life is no end of fun sometimes. During the McVeigh era, when militias turned into pop stars and stuff, again, John Trochtman, the head of the Montana State Militia, actually claimed that Chinese communists were grinding up orphan babies into powders to sell in American health food stores as supplements. It's like, wow, what if this was true?
Yeah.
Imagine if all this shit was true and then making a movie about it and watching the fun, or all these claims that blue helmeted UN troops are going to go through the sewers and rise up out of the manhole covers to go door to door, taking away people's guns. I'm saying, oh my God, if only that was true.
Yeah.
If only Obama really was a socialist, let alone Biden. But yeah, I mean, they come running door to door to take away people's guns, get out the lawn chairs, whip out the lemonade, and watch the fun.
Oh.
So it means Tea Party revenge porn is only a sequel to another one or two of these that were on the Lard albums.
Yeah.
I mean, even Can God Fill Teeth, about a guy who goes crazy trying to pull out all his fillings because he thinks the government put copper wiring in his teeth and then pull his teeth out. I mean, that's part of this.
Yeah.
And then that one led straight into one on Pure Chewing Satisfaction, the second full-length Lard album called Peeling Back the Foreskin of Liberties. Let me know. Look up in the sky and look at a helicopter. It's black. What does that tell you, huh? Stuff like that.
Oh, shit.
Of course, Trochtman's claims got in there too. I mean, you have to be fascinated by how fucking weird this is.
Yeah.
Of course, also, it gets less funny and more dangerous when people actually start believing it.
Yeah.
The early days, what do you think of this Fox News? Well, imagine a right-wing Onion and people actually believe it.
Yeah.
No. People actually believe that shit? Well, unfortunately, yes.
Yes, they do. Oh, my God.
Which brings us back to the Blunderblubbers song about Rush Limbaugh. Anyway, I got to go.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. And go back to Alaska very often?
I haven't been back since 2010, but I'm planning on taking the family up the Alcan to do that trip because I've only done it twice. So,
is it even worth doing, or there's a lot of it just dead boring over flat-ish ground?
Yeah, on a 2-lane road. Yeah, a lot of it is. It depends what time of year, but yeah, if you can get up the right time, like if dead of winter sucks, we did it once that way, but then summertime is good. Summertime's solid when you get up there, but
Alcan, Fairbanks to Whitehorse, yeah.
Yeah, that's where everything starts getting
down
good.
To what, Dawson Creek it is or whatever?
Yeah.
I'm not as eager to do that one.
No, but it's part of the journey. You got to do it if you're going to drive it.
Did it pulling a great big trailer behind them the whole time. Somehow they made it there and back.
Man. Well, man, I appreciate
Grandpa
it.
Having cataracts so bad he could barely see where he was driving. All right,
Joe. Hey, we may
agitate to reopen the White Cat Pass and Yukon Railway.
Yeah,
they closed it. At least half of it is closed now.
All right, my man. Thank you so much.
People laugh as hard as they do at South Park or Beavis and Butthead. It's got to be on that level.
Absolutely. All right. Have a good night. Thanks for the time, man. This has been awesome.
Right. Cool.
All right.
I'm going to click leave and I'm leaving.
All right. See ya.
Cool.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Mr. Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys, from Jello Biafra and the Guantanamo School of Medicine, from Alternative Tentacles Records. The dude is prolific. You can find him anywhere. He doesn't do a lot on social media, but he does have these videos called What Would Jello Do on YouTube, which are fantastic. I hope you guys enjoyed all the talk about Alaska and reminiscing. If you're from Alaska, you probably enjoyed it and understood a lot more than most, because you got to be there to understand. But it was cool to be able to talk Alaska with someone who, I discovered back in Alaska who changed my world musically. It's just a cool thing to be able to do this show and literally look across the screen or look across the room and see someone you've had on your wall or, changed your musical life, just chatting it up with you. Like you're not watching someone else do it, you're doing it. And it still boggles my mind sometimes, the people we get on this show, but I am very grateful for what we've done and what we have. And for all of you coming back week after week means the world to me. I love each and every one of you guys very much. If you have not subscribed to the premium, peerpleasure.supportingcast.fm, we'll get you there. You can get all the videos, all the past casts. We're doing like 3 of those at a time. It's awesome. It's just the way to go. Being able to support the show, support me, and what we're doing here. It means a lot that you guys have already signed up. And those of you that will, thank you in advance. And join the Facebook group. Keep rating, reviewing, and subscribing to the show. Word of mouth, all that stuff. I know there's a lot of tradesmen that listen and tradeswomen that listen to this podcast. And hopefully you guys are being safe out there. I love the connection with you guys as well. Myself being a tradesman, it's nice getting those emails too, knowing that I'm giving you guys something to listen to all day. It really makes me happy because that's what got me through the days. So, I'm just rambling on here, guys. But yes, I love each and every one of you very much. Thank you so much for coming back week after week. We've got more stuff coming at you next week. But as always, we'll see you on the radio.